constitutional authority does the Census Bureau collect information now from 250,000 people every month of every year? No answer. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution prohibits government search and seizure of private information without a court warrant based on probable cause. Current census policies violate that amendment, do they not? No answer. By what constitutional authority does the Census Bureau threaten penalties for failure to provide personal information? No answer. The Census Bureau claims it maintains privacy of personal information. Are there any circumstances under which law enforcement or spy agencies can access census information? No answer. Since presumably census data may be subpoenaed by law enforcement, may individuals refuse to answer questions according to the Fifth Amendment? No answer. Why has the Census Bureau decided to collect GPS coordinates for every home? No answer. Virtually every government database has either been lost, hacked, or compromised. Would the Census Bureau's claim of data security not be an outright lie, or at best, highly improbable? No answer. How would the Census Bureau locate, protect, and compensate those individuals whose data becomes compromised? No answer. Well, I can answer a lot of those questions for them. Unless the Census Bureau can show you their constitutional authority, you don't have to even open the door for them. When they come to my door, it will be the census taker who will be answering the questions. I'm Jerry Day. This is Matrix News Network.
We are back and we are live on the Saturday night edition of The Cutting Edge, 9 to midnight every Saturday. All right, Darko, we'll pick up where you left off. Welcome back, everybody.
Thank you. We're talking about geoengineering still in cloud seeding, and just stick with us, because I think around the next break we're going to get into different aspects of this, where we look to what the government has wrote, or what they're looking at as far back as 1996, and the nitty-gritty and what they envision, because this is going to be interesting, because all this stuff all these articles that I've been covering here, you're going to hear these the stuff that they're, quote, proposing, right? You're going to hear them predicting it or calling for it back in the 90s. So, we're not mathematicians here, but I'm sure that you guys can add 1 + 1. I'm going to go to an article here. It's titled Nighttime Artificial Cloud Study Using NASA Sounding Rocket. And this is from last September, 2009. A rocket experiment that may shed light on the highest clouds in the Earth's atmosphere was conducted from NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia. The Charged Aerosol Release Experiment, or CARE, was conducted by the Naval Research Laboratory and Department of Defense Space Test Program using a NASA four-stage suborbital sounding rocket. So just remember that, the Department of Defense Space Program. Using ground-based instruments, the spacecraft scientists will study an artificial noctilucent cloud formed by the exhaust particles of the rocket's fourth stage at about 173 miles altitude. The spatial heterodyne imager for mesospheric radicals instrument on the spacecraft will track the CARE dust cloud for days or even months. So, I mean, I'm not sure, but maybe, so I'm just kind of assuming here that this cloud is going to be around for months. It says the CARE is the first space viewing of an artificial. A team from government agencies and universities led by the Naval Research Laboratory is conducting the experiment. And this is, this gives you some background about who is involved in all this stuff, who's doing this, where are these white planes, who are in them, who's in them. In addition to the Naval Research Laboratory, participants include the DoD, STP, NASA, University of Michigan, Air Force Research Laboratory, Clemson University, Stanford University, University of Colorado, Penn State, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, and Haystack Observatory. So, yeah, I mean, this is what we're going to be getting in here right now. I'm going to just get to it now, and because you've seen a lot of these articles talking about spraying particles up in the air, and this from NASA's website. That's the article. That's where I got that article, and so let's just roll into it then. The second part of the show here tonight, and we just I just want to say thank you everybody for joining us on this tonight's show that we're talking about weather modification, chemtrails, and all sorts of good stuff. But yeah, so the government, and are they doing this? Well, let's look at what they've been calling for, and I have their own little document here. It's officially called a white paper, and it was called "Weather as a Force Multiplier: Owning the Weather in 2025." This is, of course, the Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force, who tasked the Air University at Maxwell in Alabama to look 30 years into the future to identify the concepts, capabilities, and technologies of the United States will require to remain the dominant air and space force in the 21st century. And of course, this was a research paper that was presented to the Air Force by a bunch of military officers. It says, I just want to put out there real quick that, remember in the beginning of the show how we said that the 1977 UN resolution said that they outright banned it, right? There's the military can't be used for anything military. So I mean, they're not going to just come out and say in the media, "Hey, everybody, hey, we want this big military, big bad weapon that we got to protect ourselves from an imminent threat that's always going to be there." No, they're not, and it's got global warming. It's got to be for reducing CO2. But the truth of the matter is that they need to spray the sky, the upper atmosphere, with these particles so they can reflect the sunlight back up into space and create an artificial ionosphere. And what they can do when they do that is they can mess with other people's communications, their radar. They want to be able to actually create and control lightning, shooting laser beams like freaking lasers. I mean, it just gets wild. So, and that's the stuff that we're going to cover when we get into this. All right. It says, now, this is what it says in the beginning. It's kind of interesting because you can, well, let's see. It says, alternate futures. It says, study participants used a forecasting technique known as alternate futures to help them envision an array of future may be able to survive and prosper in the year 2025. In the first world, the U.S.'s military might is constrained by many world players with other forms of power. A second world depicts the extreme impacts of a future dominated by multinational corporate giants, right? Because it isn't already. A third world is a scary future in which information and biogenetic technology is dispersed, giving individuals and small groups untold power. In a fourth world, the U.S. loses its status as a superpower to an Asian colossus. I wonder who that would be. A fifth future envisions a world marked by fundamental changes in the social structure, environment, and the international security system, making it difficult for the United States to determine how to best to exert its power and influence. The final world depicts how a major conflict in 2015 could shape events. And so it says here, what is the goal of this owning the weather research paper? What are they wanting to do when the military is meeting with these universities and looking at the capabilities of this technology? It says degrade enemy forces, enhance friendly forces. it talks about precipitation enhancement and precipitation avoidance, storm enhancement and storm